welcome back to Elise Reads and Speaks. Today I am bringing you something a little different. I must make a confession. I am a huge Bachelor fan. Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, sign me up. I watch them all, I love them all, and then I was like, well, I could recommend them some books. This would be extremely fun. So I figured I would just choose 10 Bachelor or Bachelorette contestants that kind of jump out at me and books that I would recommend them. And then as time goes on and more contestants pop into my head and other books that I would recommend for them, I'll make another Bachelor video. So today I'm just gonna bring you 10 contestants and books that I would recommend for them. I'm gonna go through the order that we have met them in the Bachelor franchise. So the first one that I'm gonna kick it off with is Sharleen. Sharleen, we met in Juan Pablo season, and I loved her, okay? I was so into her, even though I didn't always understand exactly what she was saying, because if you remember, she was missing that, what was it, cerebral connection with Juan Pablo, and she's one of those that's like, you know, you could tell the things that were coming out of her mouth were so smart, and sometimes they just kind of like went over my head, which is probably why she and Juan Pablo didn't work out. So I'm actually recommending her 2 books. The first one that I'm recommending to her is Strange the Dreamer. Now this one I read, this one I gave 2 stars. I wasn't that into it, but you wanna know the reason that I wasn't into it? I felt like it was just a little too smart for me and I didn't get it. I don't know, I was reading all this like flowery language and I'm like, I'm sure this would be a great story if I like could immerse myself in the world, but there's just too much description and it's over my head. So it kind of made me think of Sharleen. And the thing is like, I love Sharleen, but I really feel that she's one of those that would read Strange the Dreamer and think that it's one of the best things that she has ever read. Now I'm gonna give a recommendation for her of a book that I love, all right? I think Sharleen should read 3 Dark Crowns, because if you have read this before, correct me if I'm wrong, but can't you see Sharleen as a poisoner? Like, I really feel like if she was in the magic of this world and she was born as a queen, she would be a poisoner. I'm a naturalist, but I feel like that is the faction that she would be born into. If you have a different thought on Sharleen, let me know down below. Next, I'm moving on to Nick Viall, or Viall, or however you say it. I mean, it really sucks if it's Viall, right? Like, that's a terrible last name. Okay, anyway, we first met Nick on Andy's season, then he was on Kaitlyn's season, he was also in The Bachelor in Paradise, and then he was The Bachelor, so he's been on a lot of Bachelor shows. So I am picking out The Cruel Prince for Nick, and let me explain why. All right, in The Cruel Prince, there is Carden. Carden sucks. Now, I'm not saying that Nick sucks, but Carden is like the unlikely person that you're somehow rooting for at the end. You know, I went through all 3 books and I wanted that happy ending for Carden and Jude. And I felt like that with Nick. Like with Nick, when he was starting on Andy's season, throughout the season, I was like, he's okay, seems a little shady. I'm not the biggest fan, but okay. But by the time he was The Bachelor, man, I was pro Nick. And I also just feel like the title, The Cruel Prince, and him being Nick Viall, whatever. I feel like it just kind of goes hand in hand. Now I'm moving on to Kaitlyn, that we met on Chris's season, and then she became the Bachelorette, and then Nick was on her season, and you know what happens from there. All right, Kaitlyn, I'm going a different route. Let me explain why. I'm recommending My Lady Jane. All right, let me explain. I feel like Kaitlyn is one of those people that I would be friends with in real life. She just kind of seems to have the same sense of humor as I do, and I really feel like I am in my element and in her element when I recommend a book where the prince turns into a horse, you know, and My Lady Jane is married to a horse. Like, it's like a bizarre book with a bizarre sense of humor, but I was laughing the entire time, and I just feel like Kaitlyn Bristowe is the type of person that would read this book and really get a kick out of it. Next up, Ashley I, the infamous crier that we first met on Chris's season. I have 2 books that I'm recommending for her. Okay, first, I'm gonna start off with The Mortal Instruments. The first one is City of Bones, because I feel like Ashley would really relate to Clary. Like, there's a lot of whining, crying that goes on. She's trying to work out her feelings for Jace, and I feel like Ashley went through the same thing with Jared and Jace. Jared, you know, it kind of goes. And I mean, Clary ended up being pretty kick-ass, but she had a lot of feelings on the way to being kick-ass. And I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with Ashley. Now, the other book that I'm recommending for her is Kill the Boy Band. Right. Kill the Boy Band is so funny. It's like this underrated book that nobody has read, and yet it is a damn good time, I swear. It's about this boy band where they're all named Rupert, and I feel like because I'm calling her Ashley I, and there's Ashley S and Ashley whatever. I mean, there's all these Ashleys with different initials, and it's the same thing in this boy band. I forget all the initials that they have, but it was Rupert something, Rupert something, Rupert something. All right, and then it becomes like a little stalker-ish. So sorry, Ashley. But these girls end up kidnapping this one that's in the boy band, and, you know, stuff goes crazy, all right? I hate to say like Ashley's kind of stalkerish, but she does have that tendency to be a little crazy. But I love this book, and the characters in it were endearing. So I feel like Ashley's on the same plane as those characters too. Next up, Chad, the Chad Bear from JoJo's season. Do not poke the Chad Bear. Chad, for you, I am recommending the female of the species. Let me explain why. There's a lot of toxic masculinity going on here. I just feel like if Chad would read this book, maybe it would open his eyes to what he has done to women, or how he's like treated women, being a alpha male type person and not really thinking of women as people. That's just kind of my take on it. I mean, there's a lot else that goes on in this story, but when I think of Chad, I think of toxic masculinity, and I think of this book where I really took something from it as far as the toxic masculinity and the rape culture in which we live. Next up is my queen, Miss Rachel, that we first met on next season, and I am recommending Cinderella is Dead, because this is about a kick-ass black heroine that gets her fairy tale ending after fighting for it. And I feel like that is Rachel to a T. And I loved this book, and I gave it 5 stars. So Rachel, if perhaps you watch this someday, read this book. Next on my list, I have Demi, that we first met on Colton season. Now, Demi is so underrated. I felt like on Colton season, she got such a bad edit, because then we got to know her on Bachelor in Paradise and with her Twitter account, and man, she is a queen. So you know who I think she relates to? Miss Evelyn Hugo from the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is also a bisexual queen, and I just feel like there's so many similarities, because if you take them at face value, they don't seem like the best people. Like her edit on Colton season was kind of not representative of who she actually turned out to be, you know? And I really feel like she would read this book and find so much to relate with Evelyn Hugo. My next one up is Miss Hannah B, that we first met on Colton season, and then she became the Bachelorette. Now, I wasn't the biggest fan of Hannah on Colton season. I thought she was a little nutty, but man, when she became the Bachelorette, I was like all team Hannah Brown. I thought she was a riot. She made me laugh so much, and I feel like she has a really good sense of humor. She's the type of person that likes to laugh at herself. So I'm going with The Dating Disasters of Em and Ash. Dude, I feel like I am the only person that's read this book. Like, I bring it up and nobody's ever even heard of it, and it's so funny. It's about this girl, exactly, dating disasters, but she laughs at herself with all this insane stuff that she gets into. And I just feel like Hannah would read this and totally get a kick out of it. All right, next up, I have Peter, Pilot Pete, that we first met on Hannah Brown's season, and then he became the Bachelor. And what a bachelor he was. Oh my God, he was atrocious. Like, I really felt like on Hannah B's season that was her person. She should have picked him. They should have ended up together. That clearly did not happen, because he went on to become the Bachelor. Now, I am choosing Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Let me explain why. Heartless surrounds the story of the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, and it's her backstory of how she was this like nice, sweet person, caring about other people, falls in love, and it's her story of how she becomes the evil Queen of Hearts. Now, I'm sorry, Peter, but I feel like this would represent your fall from grace too. Like on Hannah's season, I loved you. I loved you so much. I thought you were wonderful. And then you became the Bachelor. And with each passing week, I was like, oh, this is awful. So I feel like Heartless, Queen of Hearts, Peter, perfect match. And then my last contestant for today, I have Miss Hannah Ann that we met on Peter's season. Oh, poor Hannah Ann. She did not know what she was getting into. Oh my gosh, that girl was like dragged through the mud and she came out stronger because of it. So this one, I'm also recommending a little bit of a hidden gem. This one is called Grace and Fury. The reason I'm recommending this one is because when I had started this book, okay, it's these two sisters, and one of them is a little more prissy and into being a Grace, and she wants to be selected and have everything, you know, perfect for her. And by the end of the story, oh, there's a big change in that character for the better. And I just felt like, I even wrote it in my review, that I really misjudged that character. She became so strong and like fierce. And I mean, like actually like fighting fierce. And I felt the same way at the end of Peter's season with Hannah Ann. I was like, oh girl, did I misjudge you? You are badass. So I feel like Hannah Ann and this character in here, same, totally the same. Okay, so those are my 10 contestants today. Hopefully I will make more videos with more contestants from The Bachelor whenever somebody pops into my head and I think, oh, they should read that book, or oh, they'd really like that book. Like, I don't think Chad's gonna like The Female of the Species, but that doesn't mean that he shouldn't read it. All right, that's all I've got for today. Thank you for tuning in to Elise Reads and Speaks, and I will catch you next time, guys. Bye!